On a quiet summer evening, July 21st, 1986, a conversation took place that would shake the foundations of American intelligence. KGB agent Alexander Fefolov spoke with a mysterious FBI mole, later codenamed B. This mole would soon become the most damaging spy in the history of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, leaking more U.S. secrets to the Soviet Union than any operative before him. He evaded detection for over 2 decades, causing the deaths of multiple American assets within the KGB. Years later, after a long, expensive hunt, B stood handcuffed in a public park, offering a chilling final remark. "What took you so long?" In 1989, U.S. intelligence suspected that Felix Bloch, a high-ranking European specialist in the State Department, was working as a spy for the Russians. Bloch was well regarded in diplomatic circles, known for his expertise and trusted access to sensitive material, which made the allegations even more alarming. The FBI, working closely with the CIA and the French Directorate of Territorial Surveillance, placed him under extensive surveillance, monitoring his movements across Europe. They shadowed his meetings, intercepted communications, and tracked financial transactions, hoping to catch him red-handed. However, despite the intense surveillance, no concrete evidence could be secured. Bloch remained cautious, never overtly communicating anything that could convict him. Without warning, the KGB abruptly severed contact with Bloch. He was seemingly discarded overnight. Investigators were left baffled. It was as if the Russians had known they were being watched all along. Someone within U.S. intelligence had clearly tipped them off, saving Bloch from exposure and prosecution. The incident sent shockwaves through the FBI and CIA. It suggested that a high-level mole was leaking information to the Soviets, capable of undermining entire operations with a single warning. The failure to catch Bloch red-handed became one of the first glaring signs that American intelligence was being deeply compromised from within, a realization that would haunt the agencies for years to come. Meanwhile, double agents inside the Soviet military began to fall. Major General Dmitry Polyakov, a prized U.S. informant codenamed Top Hat, vanished. In 1986, he was arrested, tried for treason, and executed. Other informants like Sergei Motorin and Valery Martinov met similar fates, executed or imprisoned. It was clear someone was feeding information to the Soviets. In 1994, the CIA identified Aldrich Ames, a CIA officer living far beyond his means, as a mole. Ames's arrest exposed numerous compromised agents. However, his timeline didn't match all the breaches. Investigators realized another mole remained active, someone with deep access, someone still betraying American secrets. A joint task force of the FBI and CIA began searching for Gray Suit, a code name assigned to the unknown mole. In 1998, suspicion fell on Brian Kelly, an FBI agent involved in the Bloch investigation. Kelly's life was turned upside down. His home was searched, his phone tapped, and his family interrogated. Yet no evidence surfaced. Kelly was innocent. The investigation stalled until agents accessed a file acquired from Russian sources, containing a 1986 recording of the mole's voice, the same conversation between Fefolov and B. Alongside the recording was a quote referencing General George S. Patton's controversial World War II speeches. Task Force member Bob King recalled that an FBI colleague often quoted Patton. Listening carefully, the agent recognized the voice on the tape. It belonged to Robert Hansen. Born in Chicago, Robert Philip Hansen appeared to be a model citizen, a devout Catholic family man, and diligent worker. He joined the FBI in 1976, specializing in counterintelligence. Ironically, his assignment was to compile databases of Soviet activities. Soon after, Hansen secretly offered his services to Soviet military intelligence, the GRU, seeking money, not ideology. Hansen operated with alarming simplicity. He used dead drops, leaving classified materials hidden in parks, forests, and even hiking trails, marked by subtle signals like a piece of white tape. In 1985, he anonymously mailed the KGB a letter revealing the names of key American assets: Polyakov, Motorin, Martinov, and others. His betrayal led directly to their deaths. Throughout his espionage career, Hanssen blended in. No matter where the FBI transferred him, he continued leaking information. In 1987, he was assigned to investigate the very leaks he was causing. His self-conducted study conveniently omitted any leads pointing to himself. Even when the FBI dug a secret tunnel under the Soviet embassy in Washington, Operation Monopoly, Hanssen tipped off the KGB, rendering the multi-million-dollar operation useless. Colleagues grew suspicious. His brother-in-law, Mark Waugh, reported him in 1990 after Hanssen's wife found a suspicious amount of cash hidden in their home. Another agent raised concerns in 1993 after Hanssen hacked into an FBI computer under the pretense of demonstrating cybersecurity flaws. Still, the Bureau took no action. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Hanssen, fearing exposure, severed contact with his handlers. But within a year, he tried to re-establish ties, an act so risky that it should have ended his career. Approaching a GRU officer in the Russian embassy's parking lot, he identified himself by his code name, Roman Garcia, hinting, perhaps intentionally, that he worked for the CIA. The officer rejected him, but no action was taken against Hanssen. Still wary, Hanssen laid low until 1999. When he finally resumed contact with the Russians, now under the SVR, he returned to selling state secrets with renewed fervor. By 2000, the FBI obtained Russian intelligence files, including a trash bag from one of Hanssen's dead drops. His fingerprints were found on the bag, incontrovertible evidence of betrayal. The Bureau moved quickly, assigning Eric O'Neill, an undercover operative, to serve as Hanssen's assistant. O'Neill gained Hanssen's trust, noticing that Hanssen guarded his personal digital assistant, PDA, obsessively. This device likely contained the information needed to catch him. When Hanssen grew suspicious that he was being monitored, the FBI acted. During a staged shooting practice session, agents borrowed his PDA, downloaded its contents, and discovered plans for an upcoming dead drop. On February 18, 2001, Hanssen drove to Foxstone Park in Virginia. He marked a wooden footbridge with a piece of white tape, the signal for a dead drop, then placed a garbage bag filled with classified material underneath the bridge. As he returned to his car, FBI SWAT teams swarmed him. Caught red-handed, Hanssen simply asked, "What took you so long?" In his 22 years of espionage, Robert Hanssen sold roughly 6,000 classified documents, received over $1.4 million in cash, diamonds, and Rolex watches, and compromised more than 50 human assets. His treachery led to the deaths of at least 3 American double agents and dismantled numerous U.S. operations against the Soviet Union. Hanssen pleaded guilty to 15 counts of espionage and conspiracy, receiving 15 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. He was incarcerated at ADX Florence, the most secure prison in America, spending 23 hours a day in solitary confinement until his death on June 5, 2023, at the age of 79. ADX Florence, often referred to as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, houses the most dangerous criminals in the United States. Hanssen's life inside the Supermax facility was one of utter isolation. He lived in a concrete cell measuring just 7 by 12 feet, with minimal human interaction. Meals were delivered through a small slot in the door, and exercise was confined to a similarly isolated cage. Throughout his incarceration, Hanssen maintained a low profile, rarely speaking to guards or other inmates. Some reports suggest he spent much of his time reading religious texts, perhaps reflecting on the gravity of his actions. Yet the man who had once orchestrated one of the most damaging breaches in U.S. intelligence history lived out his final years in near total obscurity. His death in 2023 marked the end of a chapter that many in the intelligence community would rather forget. However, the lessons learned from his betrayal continue to influence counterintelligence strategies and security protocols to this day, serving as a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities even within the most secretive organizations. The Robert Hanssen case exposed glaring weaknesses within American intelligence agencies. How could such a mole operate for decades inside an organization built on secrecy and security? Post-Hanssen, the FBI and CIA instituted sweeping reforms, enhanced background checks, increased surveillance on employees, and a culture shift towards internal accountability. Hansen's legacy remains a dark chapter in American history, a reminder that betrayal often comes from the least suspected sources. He didn't operate with political motives or grand ideology. His sole driver was greed. In the end, a man who appeared devout, patriotic, and loyal unraveled the very institutions he had sworn to protect. The scars left by Hansen's espionage run deep. Dozens of operations failed. Countless agents lost their lives, often under brutal circumstances, as their betrayals were swiftly and mercilessly punished. American credibility suffered internationally, leading to strained alliances and diminished trust among key intelligence-sharing partners. Entire networks had to be rebuilt from scratch, costing not only time but also billions of dollars in lost resources and operations. Morale within the intelligence community plummeted, as agents were forced to confront the unsettling reality that one of their own had orchestrated such widespread damage. To this day, intelligence experts debate how much long-term damage Hansen caused and how close he came to causing even greater catastrophe. Some believe that Hansen's leaks may have altered the global balance of power during the late stages of the Cold War, potentially emboldening adversaries at critical moments. Others argue that the full extent of his betrayal might never be completely understood, buried within the classified depths of intelligence archives. What remains undisputed is the fact that Hansen's actions reshaped U.S. counterintelligence policies permanently, embedding a new, painful caution into every layer of America's intelligence infrastructure. Behind closed doors across the globe, intelligence wars continue. Nations guard their secrets jealously, knowing that sometimes it's not the enemy outside the gates that poses the greatest threat. It's the one within.